country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. And then there's abortion, a difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up.
It's been almost a full year since Bill Maher declared war on the woke crowd, and spoiler alert, he's still going full throttle. This time, his sights are locked on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's been crisscrossing the country preaching her progressive gospel like a human woke GPS. But Maher, he's done playing nice. Hit that subscribe button and let's get into it.
Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales. Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
Here's where it all began. Bill Maher did what he's famous for, cutting through the noise and asking the tough, uncomfortable questions. This time he set his sights on AOC and her relentless push for far-left ideals that more and more Americans are flat-out rejecting. Maher asked the obvious. Why cling to a political agenda that's already been exposed as toxic, divisive, and tone-deaf? Most people would pause, reassess, maybe even shift course. But not AOC. She's convinced she holds the moral high ground, and she's all too eager to force her Latinx agenda on the entire country. But Maher wasn't finished. What came next wasn't just critique, it was a strategic takedown, the kind that strips away spin and leaves no room for excuses. And trust me, it only gets more brutal from here.
And then there's abortion, a difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up. When the wokey end of the progressive spectrum talks about abortion now, they shy away from that word, women, and prefer terms like birthing people or people who menstruate, because somewhere there's a trans man who's pregnant, and I say good for him, and I'll be looking for his story somewhere in a future issue of Ripley's Believe It or Not.
And that right there is the Hill Democrats chose to die on the refusal to define what a woman is. A decade ago, this wasn't even up for debate. Everyone knew a woman menstruates, can get pregnant, and gives birth. That was biology simple, factual, but then came the progressive makeover. Suddenly, gender was fluid, men could be women, and questioning it made you a bigot. Most Americans didn't buy it. They pushed back, asking basic, reasonable questions, and got lectures, cancellations, and smug arrogance in return. While the far left doubled down, everyday voters quietly walked away. The result? One of the most devastating electoral losses Democrats have ever faced. Not because voters were hateful, but because they were tired of being told that truth itself was offensive. Democrats didn't just lose votes, they lost trust.
More of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids excel. Asian parents said, okay, I wish all kids well, not a racist, but I need someone who acts like my law.
And that right there is what happens when you keep cornering people. They don't just retreat, they snap back, hard and unexpectedly. AOC and her crew paraded around deep blue states like they were untouchable, pushing radical policies with the confidence of a party that thought its voters would follow blindly off any ideological cliff. But they were dead wrong. What they didn't anticipate was the silent rebellion former supporters flipping overnight, turning to the very Republicans AOC spent years attacking. This wasn't a minor shift, it was an earthquake. Safe Democrat territory. Cracking fast. So now the big question, was this just a stumble for AOC or the beginning of a political collapse that topples everything she's built? Stick around, because Maher's next punchline might just heat checkmate.
An 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
If you've been scratching your head every time Maher drops phrases like "my lawyer" or "their lawyer," don't worry. It's not courtroom drama. It's a metaphor for politics. Maher's message is brutally clear. Voters want someone who fights for them, their own advocate, their lawyer. But AOC and her progressive crew, they missed that memo. Instead of representing their base, they've been lecturing them, alienating them, and pushing agendas that make everyday Americans ask, wait, whose side are you even on? Maher doesn't just call it out. He builds his case, step by step, exposing how far these so-called representatives have drifted from the people they claim to serve. The irony? AOC brands herself as the underdog's champion, yet more and more, she looks like the one being judged. And when Maher drops his final argument, it won't be just a mic drop, it might just shake the whole house.
If you're a parent and wanted schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher, yeah, you're going to say, congratulations, teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer. The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot. So I may be looking for new representation.
It wasn't just Latino voters AOC and her progressive allies drove away. They ignited a firestorm under something even more crucial, education. And the results? A complete disaster. The Biden administration, pushed by its far left flank, made it harder than ever to fire failing teachers. Sounds good in theory, but it tied the hands of school leaders everywhere. The outcome? Historic drops in student performance. Math scores for 13-year-olds plunged 9 points, the worst decline in 50 years. Reading, down 4. Meanwhile, the educators behind it all got protected like national treasures. As AOC throws around buzzwords and Bernie repeats his worn-out slogans, parents are left staring at tanking report cards, wondering how we got here. This isn't just a bad policy call, it's a full-blown generational meltdown. So here's the big question, can Sanders and AOC actually guide the Democrats back to relevance? Or are they dragging the party into political detention? Spoiler alert, they're not ready.
President Biden wants to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt. Okay, but the poorer 2/3 of American kids who don't get a college degree are going to say, why should the people who didn't go to college and make less money subsidize the people who did go and make more? You want me to chip in so some liberal arts college can build a bigger rock wall? You're not my lawyer. A universal basic income probably sounds pretty good to a lot of people struggling without a college degree. And a number of cities have been running pilot programs in guaranteed income. But the West Hollywood program had to be suspended because it was unconstitutional. They set up a program where 25 residents were to get $1,000 for 18 months, but only if you identified as LGBT, the rest of that. Why? Because they need money more than any other people? Because no one in West Hollywood will hire a gay person?
Sometimes when I sit back and look at the train wreck of policies Democrats tried and spectacularly failed to push, I can't help but laugh. Not a small chuckle, I'm talking full-blown, what were they thinking laughter. These aren't just policy stumbles, they're face-first flops. Take Defund the Police. It sounded bold, until crime exploded and even its loudest cheerleaders started backpedaling like Olympic sprinters, or the rent cancellation movement, which sounded great in theory, until reality came knocking. And then there's the push to kill standardized testing because apparently accountability is now oppressive. Maher nailed it. It's like Democrats are playing how to lose the middle, 10 easy steps, and crushing it. The real kicker? These same folks think they've earned another shot at running the country. This isn't politics, it's pure satire. And Maher, he's not letting up anytime soon.
When he ran in 2020, Bernie Sanders said he would legalize marijuana on his first day as president, but that the business of selling pot would be awarded first to those who suffered most from the drug war. And you know what? I can't argue with that instinct. The drug war has been a horrendous instrument of prejudice and punishment for racial minorities, so it seems fair that they jump the line for weed franchises the way Indians did for casinos. But it's also what's holding up Republican support for legalizing weed nationally, which would be good for everybody. And these are the hard, practical choices the Democrats have to weigh. Redress the past, or reach out to the gettable white voter who says, you know what, I'd like a shot at getting in the pot business. But to do that, our entire audience. But to do that, I'm going to need a good lawyer who fights for me.
Bill Maher delivers a razor-sharp truth bomb, and it's one Democrats desperately need to hear. If they're serious about regaining power, it's going to take more than hashtags and moral grandstanding. They need to own up to their failures, face them, and most importantly, talk to the people they've ignored. Not at them, not from a think tank or Twitter feed, but face-to-face. Judgment-free, buzzword-free. Because guessing what voters want from a DC office is exactly how they lost them in the first place. Maher isn't saying sell out, he's saying reconnect, rebuild trust. Otherwise, they're just yelling into a political void, and the voters they need the most? Yeah, they've already checked out. The clock's ticking. The only question is, will they wake up before it's too late?
As with all these issues, the wavering voter is saying to her lawyer, the Democratic Party, hey, so happy for you that you have so many other clients and that you care so much about their problems and all the pro bono work you do. But you're supposed to be my lawyer. The Democrats need to be like the lawyers you see on billboards. You hurt, we fight.
Bill Maher delivers a razor-sharp truth bomb, and it's one Democrats desperately need to hear. If they're serious about regaining power, it's going to take more than hashtags and moral grandstanding. They need to own up to their failures, face them, and most importantly, talk to the people they've ignored. Not at them, not from a think tank or Twitter feed, but face-to-face. Judgment-free, buzzword-free. Because guessing what voters want from a DC office is exactly how they lost them in the first place. Maher isn't saying sell out, he's saying reconnect, rebuild trust. Otherwise, they're just yelling into a political void. And the voters they need the most? Yeah, they've already checked out, the clock's ticking. The only question is, will they wake up before it's too late?